Hey, what's up YouTube? I want to give an update on my aquarium aquaponic chop system. This is basically the same unit or system that I had before, but there is a few differences, and I want to talk about that. So here I have my 29-gallon fish tank, and still has all the same fish in it. Let me shut this door. Cut down on the glare. One thing that I did do was this tote that I had found, or we had found at Walmart. I chopped the edge of it down so that now we can see the entire fish tank. Looks a lot better. We can enjoy it, and it still functions as a safety tray, so to speak, in case the tank ever overflowed. It would flow into this tray, and then I have it piped over here into a grow bed, the tub, which is right underneath this painted plywood. We'll get to that in a minute. Some improvements that I made was now we have a bigger pump. It's a 400-gallon an hour pump, and it comes up this tube right here, which is valved and empties into the tank, or the aquarium, however you want to say it. I also have a bigger siphon. I've learned that the siphon that I had before was too small, and the pump was too small at the same time. So I've made this out of 3/4 inch PVC, or 3/4 inch PEX is what it is. It's PEX pipe. And it's all crimped together. It's also valved, so I can regulate how much water goes into the tank and how much water comes out of it. So it makes its way through this tube. You can kind of see it moving along in there. What's nice about having the siphon bigger than the tube bigger than the inlet tube coming off of the pump is that the pump can run wide open, and the bigger siphon will be able to handle it. So you still have to balance it. I really haven't figured out another way of doing it yet. But once you get it set, it pretty much stays set. I mean, just run it wide open. One other thing that I did do, get down a little bit so you can see, here in the back, that is a float switch. And the float switch is there for protection in case the siphon either breaks, meaning that it sucks air, so it breaks the siphon, or if the power goes out and the siphon breaks, and then the pump will come back on and it'll keep running. It'll fill up the tank to the tip top, and then of course it would overflow. But the switch works really well. As soon as it, let's see if I can make it happen here with my fingers. Grab the float, comes up, shuts the pump off. I've added an air stone also. We got a little air pump over here. There's an air stone in here to help aerate the water for the fish, and there's also another tube running down into the grow bed, and it aerates the water in there for the plants. So down here in my sump, the sump underneath here has my new Ponics pump, 400-gallon per hour pump. It's been running great. I did have one little problem with it, but apparently it's my fault. I talked to the manufacturer, and they don't like their pumps being hooked up to a float switch, because what they told me was that the float switch and the pump won't work together because the windings on the pump motor are encased in epoxy, and the windings, when the pump starts and stops, it heats up and it melts the plastic or the epoxy around the windings, and then the pump will just kind of grind to a stop, and that's pretty much going to fry the pump. So I try to regulate with my valves as best I can so that the pump is constantly running 24/7. And I get the water level balanced, and then I don't have to worry about the pump stopping. So I try to make the pump run full throttle as much as I can. And the latest improvement, which I did this weekend, so I want to talk about this, is this new grow bed. The first thing that we had, if you check out my other video that I did about this system, was that I had a media bed. It was stone media that I got from bags of it from Walmart. I tested it to make sure that it wasn't acidic, and it worked okay. The plants grew in it, but it was just kind of a pain in the butt. You had to have a bell siphon or a T-siphon in there to help drain the water out of the grow bed. And then I went to an aquaponic raft, or not an aquaponic raft, but a floating raft system in this tub. There's a tub under here, and that also worked okay, but what I realized was that you really don't need a raft. You don't need the styrofoam raft that floats on the water. The net pots that I have in here now, they just have to dangle above the water so that the roots can dangle below that and get into the water, and that's where they get their nutrients from, obviously. But so I was doing some reading on the internet, and I found that by using a sheet of plywood, you can paint it with an exterior latex that doesn't have a mildew reducing agent in it. You have to paint the plywood because the plywood has chemicals in the glue that could leach out into the water and ultimately kill your system. So you have to paint the plywood with latex exterior paint, something that's nice and thick. I used white, and it has to be free of the mildew killing agent, because if you get that mildew agent into your system, it'll kill the bacteria that you need that converts the nitrites into nitrates. So I have some lettuce growing down here. I just planted these not too long ago. They seem to be doing okay even after the swap over to the plywood. Got some geraniums and some other flowers that are growing in here. Hopefully this is going to take off now. I have this all in my south-facing window, and as you can see outside, we've got plenty of the white stuff, so not exactly doing much as far as outdoor growing. However, inside, things seem to be doing pretty well. And that's the thing about aquaponics that's so promising. As long as you can keep the temperature in your growing area above freezing, preferably above 40 or 45 degrees, you can grow all kinds of stuff. You know, my fish are still happy, and the water is staying clean. I had to do some water changes here and there, keep testing the water, make sure that none of the levels are too high in the ammonia or the nitrite and the pH or the nitrates, and work on balancing it. One thing I did find is that since the net pots dangle above the water, here, pull one out and show you. What I had to do was I had to make a wick to wick the water up from down inside the sump, or not the sump, but the water bed, the tub here. Let's see if I can lift it up a little bit. It's kind of hard to show, but you can see under there everything that's wicked. Some of the plants are reaching down in, picking up all that nice rich water. All the rest of these plants, I have these wicks that are helping to bring the water up to the net pot. You don't need to have these things floating on a raft. That's the thing that I found most interesting about this, was that you don't need to spend money on those expensive boards of insulation. They're like 40 bucks or so for a 2-inch thick 4x8 sheet of insulation. You can just use a sheet of plywood, use a 3-inch hole saw, because these are 3-inch net pots, set up your pattern, cut it out, and then paint it, and you're good to go. You have to paint it all the way around, top and bottom on all the sides. But so far everything is running great, and this chop system has worked pretty well. It's been kind of an experiment, and I hope to expand it into something much larger pretty soon. So stay tuned. Hope you've enjoyed this. Leave your comments and like these videos. And if you have any questions, I will try to answer them. Take care.